we're finally in the crypts, and this is the corridor crypts, and it's me, Ghazbaran, and Lucretia, and one other person called Brierella, who happened to have come by. So this door that we're at currently is locked. We can't get through it because neither of us has lockpicking skills. Otherwise, you could open that door. But this person was here. I can't really remember. She just arrived, essentially. She has a familiar that is a pixie with the lockpicking skill, so she has agreed to open the door for us. Which is kind of her. And yeah, we'll be delving into here's her description. We'll be delving into the depths of the crypt with all the undeadlings and so on and so forth. This first level is usually inhabited by bandits and so on, but once you get deeper, you start finding the dead have been disturbed and they're all up and about. Right, so here Lucretia asks for wards, which is essentially buffs from the mage. I'm thinking, well, she's either a wizard or a sorcerer. The difference is really infinitesimal for us. We get all sorts of things. We get armor boosts, we get stat boosts, and we get, I think, magic resistance to block off spells and so on, as well as immunity to mind spells and that sort of thing. I hear there's a nasty necromancer down there. Oh, there is! Even a lich at the very end as well. That might be exciting. You might die though. Not an inviting prospect. No, not at all, no. But rather bold. I intend to do my best, personally. So, whilst we're getting these buffs, I've got to sort of point something out, that the character giving us the buffs is not actually coming with us. She is a very high level character compared to this area. She has access to spells that are not normally used in here, and she is effectively boosting us by making it easier to fight off the monsters that we're about to face. So that is something a lot of high levels, well, I say a lot, some high levels offer their abilities to lower level characters in order to boost them so that they get a chance to play with them themselves, because the way it works is that whenever you go on adventure, you have to be of a certain level range, so 5 levels high or lower, and then you get the best possible experience. Otherwise, you get 1 experience per kill, even if the fights are tough and so on. Like, the monsters are tough, and you should be rewarded more for your efforts. So, in order to get the proper amount of experience, you have to be of an even level. And then the thing is, this is not exactly a place to accidentally stumble upon someone high level. They don't frequent this area, so to speak. This is quite a way off from anyone else of significance, let's say, because once we're still low level, but once you're past level, I don't know, 10 or 8, you're well beyond this area. So she has made quite a detour to come in here, and my suspicions are that Lucretia, the player of Lucretia, actually sent a tell to Brierella. So they're friends of some sort or something, I don't know. They know each other, and the creature asked her to sort of come here and give her a hand, which I don't really know what the rules are about this sort of thing. I don't mind giving her buffs and so on when you're usually this sort of thing happens in the streets of Cawdor, where you happen upon someone more naturally, because that's where people usually hang out in and talk to one another, and then you sort of gather your party from there, like in front of the tavern, and then you go on adventure, and you might meet the mage there and then ask him or her to provide the assistance needed without them requiring them to come along. So there's that sort of approach, but sometimes I've seen higher level characters sort of follow a lower level character and give them the sort of magical aid without interfering with the actual combat as well, so they sort of keep their distance and avoid leeching the experience away from this person. And that's sort of questionable boosting, because it feels like you're being pampered to. It's actually, I remember this happening at one point where a higher level character came along, and it completely sucked out the fun from the adventure, because they were actually leeching the experience from the party, which was kind of a downer for me, because it just I kind of wanted to. You don't really want to do the same run several times. So if you go to a specific location to fight off specific the monsters there because they're appropriate for your level, you don't want to have to return to that place several times in order to before you can move on to the next area. That's your next sort of challenge. So what ended up happening was that it was a pretty boring and easy ride with very little gain at all, whereas now we are getting the benefits of the buffs, which make everything really easy, or easier. I wouldn't say really easy, and then at the same time we gain the benefits of the full experience bonuses that we would get, because they're still our level, these monsters. So here are all the zombies you can find in here, in the depths of the crypts. Trying to fight them off. I can actually, my melee probably does more than my spells do right now because of all the buffs we've received. And so you can see a lot of stat boosts like strength and see invisibility and all sorts of other nonsense. We're pretty much unkillable. The stone skin makes us immune and that sort of thing. And in fact, you can see in the dialogue as well. I sort of point out. Of course, then I must be off. I have pyromancing things to attend to. Naturally, we're demanding quite a bit from someone we have just met, because she just happened to be there. We just met her. Neither of our characters knew her from before. At least Lucretia didn't really act in the way that the characters would have been friends. It was more the fact that the players were friends. They knew each other out of character, and that sort of raises the question: when is it allowed, or when is it okay to sort of bring your friends along and have them help you out? Because let's face it, the early stuff is quite boring, and now what happens is that suddenly our buffs are gone. They disappeared, and that can only mean one thing. It means that the person who gave us the buffs rested. She, because all spells are dispelled whenever a mage rests. So naturally, after she'd gone off, she probably got the game told her that she was getting her character was getting tired, and she rested and forgot all about our buffs. And now we're facing the area on our own as the level we're supposed to be and the power we're supposed to have. So this bit actually has traps in that make you fall down. As you can see, the gate blocking our way, the direct path blocks us off. So what happened to her just then is she failed her skill roll, which made her fall down. I think it's like a reflex save roll to pass, and she falls down. But I didn't have to make the roll, because when I ran through, I got the traps were already spinning, so I bypassed all the traps, the whole trap section. And we actually jump cut a section from that whole bit where as you can see, we've got our buffs back, and what happened was Rella decided to rush back, and that was another out of character decision that she kind of made. I think it's kind of like a courtesy to us as a player that, okay, she gave us the buffs and then she kind of made a mistake, so she decided to come back, but at the same time it just felt really like breaking the fourth wall, and we're actually descending now. We got past the traps, yeah, just through trial and error, I guess. Can't really remember, but now we're on the lower floor and we have our buffs again, our spells and our wards that we got from Bree, which make us survive down here quite easily. But yeah, that is the sort of thing I don't really know how it's handled according to, because well, I don't. First of all, I don't make the rules. I'm not the person who's sort of criticizing Bree for coming back and bringing us the buffs. I'm just wondering whether or not that is a breach of conduct, as it were, in terms of the roleplay, because that is a totally out of character decision to suddenly run back and bring us the buffs again when they've gone. I guess you could argue that when the character rested, she would realize that her wards were gone, and then she would decide to come back for that reason. But at the same time, it just feels, I don't know, the first time, it's just because we didn't meet her at any point in person before she arrived to give us the buffs. The moment she arrived was the first time we met her was in the crypt, not outside somewhere where we'd tell her about going to the crypt, and then that would have been sort of natural, like, hey, would you like these woods? I could give you a hand whilst you're fighting these monsters, and so on and so forth. That would have been sort of a more natural way of handling the situation. But what ended up happening was that she suddenly pops up out of nowhere and opens the door for us and gives us all the buffs and all the woods, and then hurries off, and then comes back and gives them again to us all over, because she accidentally rested and forgot all about the fact that she can't rest whilst we have these buffs if she wants us to retain them. So I don't know, it was just this sort of back and forthness that it's kind of a dodgy thing. I thought I got this on. I'd recorded the whole thing, but turns out I hadn't. Didn't remember what happened, and this is where we get a slight lag spike whilst casting the darkness spell. The good thing is I don't know if we have. Apparently, we didn't get ultravision cast on us, which would allow us to fight better in the darkness. But at the same time, right now we're concealed anyway, which is a buff from the invisibility spell that we got earlier. But I'm just resorting to spells because I can't hit anything with my spear. Anyway, on a lighter, on a more happier note, I guess, we are actually beating these skeletons now because of the wards that Bree gave us. I'm still questioning as to why Lucretia doesn't have any weapon at all, because clearly she's made the character with the idea of using some sort of a weapon that she doesn't have a proficiency to. So it could be an exotic weapon, so she needs the feat in order to use it. But at the same time, her class gives her proficiencies to a lot of other weapons, which she could then be using in instead. Well, great, poison. Whilst waiting for the feat, so she wouldn't have to. She wouldn't have to resort to fists, is what I'm saying. She's punching things a lot, and it looks kind of silly when you have a tower shield and you're using your fist to punch things. But each to their own, I suppose. So here we are. There's a... You can imagine... the skeletons, I think, are the toughest, or the more tougher ones, creatures that we face down here in the crypts. You can imagine how difficult they would be for us without the magical aid. So, yeah, I don't know what to think of it. I'm quite grateful in terms, because normally you'd go into this dungeon with a lot more people, but we just didn't find anyone in town. That was probably the main concern of Lucretia, that we could still go down here without the need for, because sometimes you just don't find players your level. Sometimes nobody is around, so you have to make do with what you've got, and there were just the two of us. So she probably thought, well, let's just make this a lot more straightforward and have a friend of mine provide some help for us. I don't remember what we did with this lock. Didn't I find a key somewhere? I seem to recall finding a key. Success will not be possible. Can't remember what we did with this door. That didn't work. I have no recollection as to where we go from here. Been poisoned, I've lost some of my dexterity. Indeed, shall we return to the route we were upon before? I feel we're not well enough equipped for this, and this is the point where the extra party member would come in handy, because neither of us has any lockpicking skills. If we had a rogue with us, he could have opened the door for us, and that enhances the whole party experience. You have to have a proper party in order to go through a dungeon, and that's very Dungeons and Dragons, whereas in most modern MMO style games, because this feels quite MMO-esque in a way, because it's online. You have over 60 players doing their own thing on the server, But at the same time, all the dungeons are created in the way that it blocks off half or nearly half of the dungeon if you don't have the proper party setup. So I don't really remember. I do recall us getting a lot further than this, so we'll just have to wait and see where we get to from here, I guess. But yeah. One key thing you might have noticed is that we never run anywhere, and that is because it is very out of character to be dashing and running all the time, when there's no need. If we were playing this game as a game, if we just ignored all the roleplay altogether, we would be running as all hell, because all the wards we got have durations, so they're running out constantly as we walk here. And we're kind of dawdling and wasting time, as it were. But at the same time, it's just more natural to walk. I mean, you never run without a reason today. As in real life, you don't run constantly. I thought this was the point where we would have to go back, where the dungeon was entirely locked off from us. But I think, yes, I'm quite sure that this passage leads elsewhere. I think it's a matter of either convenience or more loot that one passage is blocked off from anyone who doesn't have lockpicking skills. So once you if you have a rogue with you, you'd have a sort of easier time, I suppose, of getting into this place, or you get better rewards for doing so. So this is a very long corridor, isn't it? With nothing much in it. I have gotten into Arelith again. I've started playing it again on my off days, and now it's lagging again. I feel a desperate need to click things, but of course I'm not playing at the moment. Right, so we have a beautiful lag spike while things happened, but because we had the buffs, we survived. If we had been without the wards, we would have died most likely. So again, very fortunate to have them. And we kill these skeletons. These skeletons are really good for us because they provide a lot of experience for for the trouble. I seem to be collecting a lot of swords. It's mostly because I can sell them in the smithy later on. There's a door. I don't really know if that's the same door. It looks as though that passageway leads back to the door that was locked before. So I don't know. There's something like in between that. As far as looking at the map goes, anyway. Well, I believe we've gotten further than before. The place seems to branch out in multiple directions. Yes, it does. We're mapping it all out as we go. I just stepped. I kept my distance there because I didn't want to get hit by a trap again. Oh, there's a white over there. Don't really know how tough they are. I seem to have a custom skin on that changes the undead into cooler looking undead, because normally whites look completely different in the normal Arelith normal Neverwinter Nights game. So it looks as though I have something else on to change what they look like. There's also a grave robber over there, fighting alongside the zombie, it seems. Which is a bit odd, but what do you know? What can you do? Some of the wards have started to wane. We lost the concealment bonus from the invisibility. Now we're just looting stuff and we're in some sort of ritual ground, I guess. There's a person lying dead on the altar. And we're heading onwards. I like how we just go past there but ignore the door completely. Just because you can just right click it and tell that it's locked. You don't have to touch the door in order to figure that out. They seem concerned by this altar but do nothing about it. I suggest that we go north at this point, which is where we haven't been before. I think Lucretia was about to head out, but this is something we haven't explored just yet. So we're going this way. The game has a lot of quiet moments, and that's because I turn the music of the game off entirely, and I don't have anything else in the background either. I could have some sort of a proper music score in the background that's quite like, I don't know, Baldur's Gate or something that's proper fantasy music. But at the same, I just get more into the whole roleplay if I don't have the music on. The reason I turned the game music off is because of there was some sort of a sign over there that I didn't have a chance to read, but whatever. The main reason I turned it off is because the music goes on and off during combat, and it's very jarring. Right, so this here is the boss of sort of the first boss you meet in this dungeon, and it was very, very close that Lucretia just died. The only way I managed to keep her alive there is by using darkness. So darkness makes the enemies blind. I'm not sure if it made Lucretia blind, because I don't see the effects on her. But the duration of that spell is very low, so I have to keep constantly reusing it and making sure it's up, otherwise we get piled up on. The actual boss in the room is the human mercenary, but we're also trying to kill the others as well. I'm not entirely sure who's the toughest in there. I think it's the mercenary who is the toughest. And yeah, this is a fairly tough fight that we're having here. A proper boss fight, proper battle. Again, she's been she's got a critical hit and she's near death, but she manages to survive somehow. And I used darkness on her as well. I can't see them anymore because they're still in the darkness. But the benefit for me is that when melee characters, and well, any other character mostly gets a miss chance in the darkness, my spells do not. They hit. They're a guaranteed hit whenever I cast a spell. So again, she's very, very nearly dead. Oh god, oh god. And then the dog dies, or the wolf, whatever it is. I think the boss was fighting my summoned knife or dagger thing, and turned on that instead of finishing off Lucretia, and I managed to put a darkness just at the last moment and use one of my many poultices on her to heal her back up, and she manages to survive because we've run out of most of the... She doesn't have her stone skin anymore, we don't have the concealment, which provides mischance to attacks that would normally hit. So a lot of the benefits we had before are completely stripped from us, and this fight was more akin to the sort of fight that you'd have without a higher level character boosting you or helping you along. So we are now relying on my spells alone, more or less, aside from perhaps, well, I don't know, right now her wolf is dead. It was certainly very useful in that fight and tanked most of the damage we were doing, but yeah, this is a tough fight that we just didn't barely survive, very barely survived. And this is the sort of dungeon you can expect to run in Arelith. Whew. So there was the big boss fight. I'll take a moment. She says she needs to rest, of course. Not going to begrudge her that. Because, well, we got the boss, we got the bounty that you get from killing him. And then, well, the rest of them were just regular skeletons and so on. So didn't really mean much. Wonder where I'm putting all those swords. Just carrying like 12 of them already. It's ridiculous. I mean, look at that. The inventory space isn't really taken into consideration when it comes to realism, but that's neither here nor there. Memo, McAllister, I'm entrusting you with a key to the lower chambers. Secrecy is paramount. If you encounter any treasure-hungry intruders, dispatch them immediately. I'll not let them the stuff happen. I'm really slow at reading. They speak of a key here. Right. And there's that black chest over there. Which I'm not entirely sure who's... if either of us has looted it. To the lower chambers. And this key is actually for the door that was near the sacrificial altar, if you recall, which leads down to, well, like I said, further down into the crypt, to the lower sections. So this was not the end boss. This was just I don't know, a mini boss. One of those things, anyway. So, but I think you've got the gist of the dungeon runnings. What sort of things you can find in Arelith? What sort of dungeons you can go and adventure in, and what to expect. So, I think this is a good point to end it all. The party does carry on to a little further down, but I'm not going to bother showing it to you, because I've got to leave a little mystery in case you start playing the game yourselves. Yes. Either way, my name has been Juke. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Neverwinter Nights, Arelith. Join me next time. See you then. Goodbye.